All right, welcome back everybody. So today's going to be a fun one. Today's the day where you're going to learn how to play A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, just like you hear it on the record. Great upbeat fun song from 1964. It's got some acoustic guitar, it's got some electric guitar, and it's got some awesome craziness that goes on for that chord that launches the whole song. So we'll talk about and break down all of those parts in the lesson today. Okay, if this is the kind of thing that you like and you haven't done so already, I invite you to jump down and click subscribe and ring the bell, because the bell will let you know every time I drop new content, which I do every single week. All my videos have chapters in them, so you can go right to the part of the lesson that you want to see and bypass what you don't. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, I appreciate that. There's thanks, which is a little button like throwing a tip in the tip jar. Or you can join my Patreon page where you can get chord charts and tabs for all the lessons that I do on YouTube for songs just like this. And all the links are in the description, so check it out. All right, so Hard Day's Night. Lots of fun in this one. And with the advent of a couple things in sort of recent years, it's opened up on YouTube and other sources, I guess, out in the interwebs, where they're able to sort of get more isolated tracks of all this, so you can really hear what's going on. You know, part of it was Rock Band, if you remember that, back in 2009-ish, I think. They did audio mixes for that, and you can sort of get little separated guitar parts and things for these songs. And anyway, I'm going to put a link to a video where I've sourced a lot of my information that I'm going to share here today. So you can check that out and hear it for yourself. It sort of separates everything out. But we're going to do three things here today. We're going to talk about the opening chord. We're going to talk about John's acoustic parts throughout the song. And then, of course, George's 12-string electric parts throughout the song. So let's talk about the opening chord. Now, I've done a short on how to do this real quick. And you know what? I'm just going to recap it right here. So let's take a look at what you need to create the Hard Day's Night opening chord. And here it goes. Roll tape. One of the most epic song intros of the rock era has got to be the intro to A Hard Day's Night, right? How did they get that chord? Well, you need six things. You need a drum. Then you layer on a tambourine. Then you play a D note on your bass, and I think he plays it at the 12th fret of the D string. Then you add on a 6-string acoustic, and this is the chord you play. Then you add your 12-string electric, and this is the chord that you play. And then finally you add piano, and this is the chord you play. You put it all together, and this is what you get. Okay, so that's that. We'll talk about now, let's move into the acoustic guitar, the rhythm guitar that's happening throughout the song. Very driving rhythm guitar performance by John Lennon. He played it on probably his 160E, his Gibson 160E. And Lennon's acoustic playing is always very unique, at least to me, to my ear, because he doesn't really have soft touch. He plays sort of everything really, really hard, and he comes at it physically. He wears the guitar, you know, pretty high, and even when he's sitting down, he comes at it this way. So he's strumming very hard with his elbow sort of right in the middle of that the body of the guitar, and he's coming pretty hard more towards the bridge end of the guitar, right? And it gets a very distinct ring to my ear, like when the pick hits it really hard, when you come at it that way. And I don't know that I hear anybody else that sort of does that. He just really hits it hard. And so that's the approach in terms of physically what he's doing. But let's talk about the chords. So that intro chord you saw a minute ago. So John's version of the intro chord, what he's playing is an F add 9 with an open A string, right? And this is all in standard tuning, by the way. So I think that's just hitting it really hard once. You're grabbing that A string. I don't know that he's actually playing the F. Maybe he is with his thumb. But that open A, I think, is pretty audible in that. So it sounds like this. Right? So that's his part there. And then let's go into the verses, right? So he's playing G, this fingering, C, with that high G going on. And then there's that F add 9 chord again. And I'm pretty sure it's that voicing of a G, not with the open B. It's like that. So. All right, then the next part is C, and it's the same C voicing to a regular D, and back to your G. And I think every once in a while he leads it with that. He adds that sus, that G note on there. So that part. All right, so that's all the verse structure. Now, the when I'm home, that part, right? That part of the song is B minor. That's right. So B minor is your first chord, and he's going to alternate between a B minor and an E minor. And he alternates his strum, though. His strum, when he gets to this, is more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He changes it up. Back to a G, E minor, C to D. So those are the chord voicings, right? So it goes. Gotta get my arm back there, but that's the pattern on that part. And interesting, when you listen to the isolated track, that first time that they go into that, or the first instance that they go into that, B minor, E minor, B minor. Then when he goes to the G, he stays on the G too long, and it only happens the first time. The second time in the song, he doesn't do it. He changes at the right time, but he misses the chord change to the E minor, so it goes something like this. Did you catch that? He sort of hung on that G a little too long, and then the next time he plays it right, or as intended, I guess. All right. So that's really it, the verse part, the B section part. All right, then on the outro, he's just alternating between a G and a C. And ends on the big chord. It always comes back to that chord with this song, right? So that's all there is to that. All right, so that's John's part. Let's talk about George's part. So what I've found listening to the isolated tracks, George is very understated. It's very, there's not a lot, actually. It sounds like it's this big, huge 12-string driving, and it's really not. So let's talk about that. I thought it was interesting. So opening chord you saw at the beginning. George is playing on his Rickenbacker. Obviously, I don't have that. And the necks on those, I used to have that model. The neck is a lot thinner. And because of that, the spacing on the strings is squeezed in a little bit. So he can actually make this F add 9 by using his one single ring finger to cover both on the A string set and the D string set. Like like that. I can kind of get it. And then get your thumb over on the F, the low F. So he's really getting all 6. He's really getting all 6 or 12 strings when he does it. But anyway, you saw at the beginning, that's his opening chord. And if you want to cheat it, just mute the A string and do it this way. It'll still sound great. Okay, so then it goes into the verses, right? And we saw what John was playing with the G, C. So everything that George is doing is pretty much on strings 6, 5, 4, and 3. It's sort of, and all he's playing is wherever you find your fingers making the basic chords, you're just sort of picking the notes that are right there. So, you know, like the G, he's just really picking the low 6th string and the open D string. Maybe with the 3rd. Right? He does that. You sort of hear that. Because he's just making a G shape to a C shape. You know, he's just sort of picking up on those top, 4 string sets. And then when you go to your F, he's just playing an E shape, he's just playing that part of an F chord. If you did a full F chord like this, he's just playing strings 5, 4, and 3. So that's all he does. Whoops. It's little variations off of that, which is you think there's a lot more than that going on, but there really isn't. And then when it goes to C to D, John's playing the open cowboy chords. He's just playing power chords. So that's a C. And then he does a single note walk up from B. So that's kind of all that's happening. That's really all that's happening there. Then the B section, the B minor, he does a big reverse, pulls it back, upstroke. And then he plays a part of a C7th. Up to a D7. He just plays those parts of it while John's playing. Right? Right? When I'm home. That's all it is. It's just funny when you hear it. Funny to me, anyway. All right, now that guitar solo. You may or may not know, that guitar solo is a studio, it's studio trickery, or production by George Martin, their producer. And what it is it's George's 12-string electric guitar doubled with George Martin on piano. And you know the part I'm talking about. Okay. So what that is George playing a single string, and he's playing it an octave lower than what you hear on the record. And same thing, George Martin is playing his piano part an octave lower than what you hear on the record. George Martin had a book where he talked about if you slow the tape speed down by half, that translates into an octave below. So if you played a note, if you played a note like this, recorded on a piece of tape at normal speed, and then you slowed that speed down half the speed, you would get an octave lower. It would sound like an octave lower. It would sound, sonically it would be a little different, but the note would be lower. So where you end up at the end of all of this is it sounds like it's up here. Right? But what happens is they recorded it at half the speed down here. That's what they did on the guitar part. But when you speed it up, it sounds like. So anyway, so if you're playing it live and you want to sound somewhat like the record, that's where you play it. If you're on a 12 string, right? And I say there because you get the octave string on the G if you play it up there. That one. If you played it down here, you're okay so far. Oh, now you don't have an octave. Right? You don't have an octave there, so. Right? So that's how they did the solo. And if you don't believe me, there's a link to it right here. So that's how you fake it. All right. And then the last thing is the outro. So it's the same thing. It alternates between the G and the C until you get to your final chord. And it comes back to the ever important F add 9 chord again. And when you play that on a 12 string, it sounds like, well, he had one take where he ended on, right? Now I feel alright. You know I feel alright. Right? So there is that guitar that's ringing underneath, and they overdubbed what you hear repeated, and it's just the top part of your F add 9 chord. And you're alternating, you're picking up your pinky, and you're picking it up and letting the first fret ring. So that's what you're hearing. Feel alright. It fades out. You can just keep going all day long. That, my friends, is A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. I hope you learned something new today. If you like what you heard and you haven't done so already, please click subscribe and ring the bell. The bell lets you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this, and if there's another song you want me to take on and do another lesson similar to this, let me know what that is too, okay? Until next week, take care, everybody.